After an intense fight against the final boss, there is an explosion, and Setsu finds himself in the real world. As he daydreams, he is approached by his childhood friend Yuhi, but Setsu doesn't want rumors to spread about them, but Yuhi doesn't care, pointing out how long his hair has gotten, saying it makes him look gloomy, so she offers to cut it for him. Setsu appreciates her and agrees to let her cut his hair. Setsu wonders how things are going in the other world, but the sky suddenly turns dark and a magic circle appears under them. Yuhi is shocked, but Setsu senses a familiar feeling. There is a blinding light, and the students are all transported to another world. The students wonder what is going on, and Setsu realizes he has returned to the other world. They suddenly hear a noise, and there are demon knights that approach. But Setsu can sense they are being controlled by a cursed energy. As the demons get closer, they start charging at them, and the students run away. They seem to target Setsu, but Yuhi jumps on him to protect him. The demon is about to hit them, but with just a flick of his finger, he sends the demon flying. Yuhi is confused about what happened, but Setsu starts leading her away. They see an army of soldiers that come charging past them, and the soldiers engage against the demons. The men struggle, but there is a squadron of mages that unleashes fire on the demons, and they manage to take some of them out. As the battle continues, the students watch on, and Setsu finds it strange, because the war against demons should have already ended. A girl named Elka arrives, telling them it's dangerous, and they should get to safety. It seems Setsu recognizes her, and Elka is joined by the royal knight Glain, and he commands his men to charge against the demons. Glain cuts one down, and Elka uses her ice magic to rain spikes down on them. Yuhi is impressed at their strength, and Setsu leads her to safety. The students make it to the city, and they meet the king, who calls them heroes. The king explains that they are being invaded by demons, similar to the war they had 5 years ago, but they were saved by a hero from another world, and the princess thinks that this is destiny once again, bringing them heroes to save them. The princess asks for their help, but the students are concerned, since they don't know how to fight, but they have no other options, and agree to help. The princess thanks them, and the students head to their rooms, but Setsu promises he will keep Yuhi safe. The next day, the students begin their training with Glain, and Elka teaches them how to use magic, which requires having a strong mental image of the magic you want to use. The girls practice, and it seems Yuhi has some talent for it. Setsu is impressed seeing this, but as he walks around, he is confronted by Elka, who thinks he is slacking off on his training. Setsu doesn't care what she thinks, but his attitude reminds her of the hero from 5 years ago, saying he was selfish and egotistical. She warns him the world is dangerous, telling him to return to his training, but Setsu refuses, telling her to make him, so she decides to teach him a lesson. She charges at him, but in an instant, Setsu dodges and slaps her from behind. Elka is stunned. She instantly recognizes his technique, acknowledging him as the hero, calling him master, and she is glad to see him again. He wonders how long she plans to bow for, and she remembers she is his chair. He ends up sitting on her, but he finds her weird, commenting that she has become more of a masochist since they last met. She wonders why he looks different, but he explains he is in a different body. Glain stumbles upon them and wonders what they are doing, and Elka explains that Setsu is back. Glain is surprised, but looking at Elka's position, he knows it must be the truth. They quickly go to find their companion Thea, but she can already tell that Setsu is back, recognizing his magic power. Glain apologizes for being bad at sensing magic, and Elka pretends she knew it was him all along. Setsu is glad to be reunited with his old companions, and they are glad he is back. Setsu thinks he is lucky, since they could have been killed while he was away, so he wonders about the situation with the demons, and they also are curious about where he went. Setsu's friends tell him that after the final battle, he just seemed to have disappeared. Setsu isn't too sure himself, remembering his final battle against Toma. Just as he was about to strike, he gets cut by him, but Setsu lands a devastating blow that causes an explosion. But after that, he was reborn in another world, but kept his memories and magic powers. And he randomly got summoned again. Thea thinks it could actually be destiny that he was summoned again, and Setsu wonders what happened to Toma, thinking he could be behind this new war. because the demons seem to be controlled by his curse magic. But his friends tell him that he also went missing after that fight. They tried looking for the both of them, but had no luck. There is suddenly a guard that calls Glain to see the king, so he heads off, and Elka tells him that would have been his job, but Setsu says he would have traveled the world. And the three enjoy the peaceful scene that Setsu helped to bring. But Setsu wonders what Toma is up to. We see the king as he declares war on the demons. Glain tells him to reconsider, saying they are still waiting to hear from their emissary, but the princess says it was the demons who started invading them unprovoked, and seeing that new heroes were summoned at the same time, she thinks justice is on their side. Glain can't argue, and the king thinks that it was wrong to listen to Setsu and make peace with the demons 5 years ago. We see Yuhi practicing her magic, and she manages to use wind magic. Setsu compliments her, but she doesn't like the thought of using magic to hurt people, but she swears to use it to protect him, and Setsu is happy to hear this. Setsu meets with his companions, and they tell him about the declaration of war. But Glain managed to stall for time, saying the new heroes still needed more training, and Setsu decides he will go out and stop the war himself. His friends want to go with him, but he tells them he will go alone, saying he needs reliable people to stay, especially since Toma could be behind everything, so they have no choice but to agree. But first, he needs to get his equipment. Inside the palace, Thea uses an invisibility spell to sneak around, but Elka charges in, and Setsu is reminded of their old adventuring days. Elka beats up a guard, while Glain thinks they should have used a different approach. They stuff him in a box, and they head into the storage room, where Setsu finds his old sword. The guards discover the box, and they are put on high alert. Elka apologizes, and Glain says he will buy some time, and Thea tells Elka to go with Setsu since she has no help. Setsu drags her away, and they manage to make it to the edge of the city. Elka sees him off, but Yuhi suddenly appears, wondering where he is going. Setsu reveals to her that this is the second time he was summoned to the world, so he is going to go to stop the war. Yuhi wants to go with him, but he says it's too dangerous for her. Yuhi insists, but Setsu says he is doing it so she can be safe. Yuhi tells him to close his eyes, and she uses her magic to cut his hair. He is impressed she used both wind and fire magic, and Yuhi swears she will become strong so she can protect him. He flicks her forehead, and she wonders what he is doing, but he tells her that, if she can dodge it the next time they meet, then she will have passed his test. But Setsu says farewell, and he heads off. In a flashback, we see an old man arguing with his customer. He sells high-end jewelry, which has the highest quality in the whole kingdom, but he refuses to sell his pieces to a youngster who can't appreciate their value, saying he has his pride as a craftsman. The customer asks for the price of a particular brooch, but the old man says it's not about money, but a matter of his pride. His granddaughter Ruri appears, asking about the commotion, and the man says their time is being wasted. It turns out to be Setsu from the past, and he offers a sack full of gold, causing the man to instantly change his mind. After Setsu leaves, Ruri asks her grandpa about his pride as a craftsman, but he teaches her, although pride is important, everything has a price. He ends up passing away, and after the funeral, Ruri takes over to complete her grandpa's last job. She makes her way on a carriage at night, but the horse suddenly comes to a stop. A giant boar lunges at her, and she is knocked to the ground. She was on her way to deliver the brooch, and is relieved to see it wasn't damaged. She puts it back into her bag, but finds that the boar is still there. She tries to negotiate with it, offering it food, and even gold, but it's no use. However, she gets saved by Setsu, who happened to be passing by. He asks if she is okay, and she instantly offers to pay him. Setsu says it's not necessary, just happy to have helped her, but Ruri was taught by her grandpa that nothing in life is free. But Setsu tells her, not everything is about money, and Ruri seems to be reminded of the hero from the past. Setsu wonders why she is transporting goods without a guard, but Ruri says she was in a rush and couldn't find one in time. Setsu reminds her that money is no good if she dies, and wishes her luck. Ruri asks him to be her guard, but Setsu says he is busy with his own mission. She begs him to take her as far as he can, because she needs to deliver her package, and Setsu ends up agreeing to accompany her to the nearby port. They take her horse, but Ruri is sad she had to leave her other goods behind. Thinking of all the money she is losing, Setsu asks about her package, but she refuses to show him, even if he is her guard, saying it's too valuable. They make it to the port town, and Setsu is surprised to see how much it has grown. Ruri explains that after the war ended 5 years ago, trade started to boom and the town grew. She says that she hired a ship to take her the rest of the way, but when she gets to the dock, she finds her ship's trip has been cancelled, and that all the ships going to the demonic continent have been put on hold for the foreseeable future because of the war. Ruri is determined not to give up, so she asks around all the other ships, but everyone thinks she is crazy, wanting to go to the demonic continent during a war. Setsu watches her, and decides he should help her out. But she is suddenly approached by some knights, who claim to be conducting port inspections. They ask for her ID, and Ruri shows them her documents, but the knights look down on her, since she is a merchant, because they think she only cares about making money. They demand to see what's in her bag, but she refuses to show them, and they find her suspicious. They try to confiscate it, but Setsu steps in, introducing himself as her guard. He asks if they have the permits to conduct a search, but they tell him to mind his own business if he knows what's good for him. Setsu refuses to back down, so they prepare to teach him a lesson, and Setsu taunts them to fight him. But they start to attract the attention of the people, so the knights decide to let them off for now. Ruri jumps on him in gratitude, asking how much she owes him, but he says it's okay. She treats him to some food, and Setsu compliments her for staying calm in such a situation. She wonders how he knew about the permit rules, and it seems he learned a thing or two from Blaine. He wonders what she will do without a ship, and Ruri says she will keep looking for one around the town, or even buy her own ship. Setsu thinks that would be ridiculous, and reveals that he is actually on his way to the demonic continent, and says he can take her, if she agrees to rest at the inn, telling her not to push herself so hard. Ruri agrees, so they get a room at the inn. Setsu enters, telling her it's her turn to use the bath. Ruri asks him to watch her package for her while she is bathing, and Setsu wonders if it is okay. But she says she trusts him, even showing him the brooch inside. Setsu is surprised to see it, and Ruri explains it was her grandpa's last job. The brooch was her grandpa's most prized creation, and one day someone had brought it back to get it repaired. He did what he could to repair it, but his health was failing, so he couldn't be the one to deliver it. On his deathbed, he teaches Ruri that although money is important, it's only because it lets you protect the things that are really truly important, and sacrificing everything for that reason is what true pride means. He entrusts her to complete his final job, which she promises to deliver no matter what. She leaves it with Setsu, and goes to take her bath, reminding him not to steal her money, but she is glad to have met him, and happy she is close to completing her grandpa's last job. Setsu examines the brooch, and finds that the protection magic he had used on it is broken, so he worries for the person he had given it to. Later at night, while the two are sleeping, the knights come looking for them, accusing them of being demon spies. They approach their room, but Setsu becomes aware of them. The knights burst in, and Ruri is terrified. They end up jumping out of the window, and start running away, but the knights cut them off. Setsu jumps over, and continues to run, while Ruri is flustered. The knights follow, but end up slipping on bottles, which Setsu set up as a trap. However, they end up at a dead end, and the knights catch up. Ruri wonders what they are going to do, but Setsu provokes the knights to fight. However, Setsu grabs Ruri, and he jumps off the edge. Ruri thinks she is going to die, but something emerges from the water, and they land on an enormous sea serpent, which Setsu calls Leviah. The knights are shocked seeing this, and Setsu tells Leviah to head for the demonic continent. As it leaves, the knights wonder how they can even report this, but the captain says it was all just a dream, so there is nothing to report. As they travel, Ruri realizes that Leviah is just short for Leviathan, the god of the ocean, and she wonders who Setsu could possibly be. There's a bright light, and they arrive at the demonic continent. Leviah gets into a fight with a giant squid, while Setsu just cheers them on as he enjoys the show, and Leviah gets sprayed by the squid's ink. Setsu reintroduces Levi, who has taken her human form, and Ruri is surprised to meet the god of the ocean. Levi gets mad at Setsu for not helping her with the squid, but he says that he thought she had things under control, and it's not every day he gets to witness such a fight. Levi is also mad that he disappeared for 5 years, and the first thing he asks for is to use her as a boat. Ruri interrupts, asking what they are going to do with the giant squid, and Levi says that Setsu will deal with it. So he ends up making squid rings, which Ruri is hesitant about, but quickly finds delicious after she tastes it. Levi also enjoys it, although she says that she prefers it raw. Now that they made it to the demonic continent, Levi points out the nearby fishing village and reveals that the demon lord's castle is on the other side of the mountain. Setsu mentions that he will take Ruri to the castle because he also has business with the person she is delivering her package to. Levi finds it strange that a human is making a delivery to Desus, and Ruri wonders how she knows the recipient of her package. So Levi reveals she is actually making a delivery to Desustal, the demon lord, causing Ruri to start freaking out. Levi tells them that they have to make their way on foot the rest of the way, so her job is done, but Setsu wonders if she would join him. Levi claims that she kept her promise to maintain the peace on the seas, and is mad that after 5 years, he just uses her as a boat, and is even with another woman. Some demon children appear, telling him he doesn't understand a girl's feelings, and he should apologize as a man, but he gives them all some squid rings, and they run around in joy, wanting to share with their parents, and Levi says there is plenty to go around. So they take the squid back to the village. However, things aren't looking good in the village. Trade has stopped because of the war, and they are worried about starving, because the giant squid is stopping them from fishing. But Setsu arrives with the squid, surprising them all, and the village throws a party. Levi is praised as a god, being served their finest wine and their best sushi, but she says she likes it better when it's raw, but the man thinks it was already as raw as possible. Ruri serves the squid rings, while Setsu works on cooking them. Levi tells him he is going too slow, so he uses his great sword and perfectly slices up the squid into rings, impressing the villagers with his skill. Meanwhile, we meet a demon named Vlad, who sees the fire down in the village, so he worries that they are being invaded by the humans, so he rushes toward the village. The party dies down, and it seems that Ruri has gotten a little drunk. She wonders how Levi met Setsu and the demon lord. So Levi tells her that 5 years ago, Setsu tried to cross her ocean without permission, so they fought, and he ended up dragging her around to help him stop the war. But in reality, the war caused her to go on a rampage, and Setsu beat her with a single punch. Levi wonders how she didn't know, because Setsu should be the great hero in the human kingdom, and Ruri suddenly realizes his true identity, which explains how he is so strong, and how he knows Desus the demon lord. She asks if Levi is angry at Setsu, but she is actually just glad that he is back. Ruri wonders if she loves him, but Levi says it would be impossible for her to be in love with a human, although she admits to waiting for him to return. There is suddenly an explosion as Vlad bursts into the village, but he soon realizes they are just having a party, and some children offer him some of the squid rings. Setsu sells all his squid rings, while Levi and Ruri sit by the ocean. Levi uses her magic to catch some fish, finding it best when it's fresh. Vlad apologizes for his behavior, and Setsu joins them. Vlad is able to recognize him, even in his new body. Setsu wonders what the demon lord's most trusted officer is doing out of the castle, and Vlad reveals he was looking for Levi. He is glad to find Setsu as well, and he begs them to save the demon lord. He reveals that Desus is being asked to marry a man named Terran Sneeder, which Levi thinks should be a happy occasion, but it's really a subjugation through a curse. Setsu thinks that Desus should be able to resist most curses, but Vlad mentions an exceptionally powerful cursed necklace. Vlad talks about the war, where they were suddenly invaded by humans a month ago, but Setsu finds this strange. Vlad mentions that they were attacked by soldiers in massive armor, and even left behind the flag of the human kingdom. Desus was reluctant to go to war, which is when Sneeder appeared and offered to negotiate to stop the war. Setsu wonders just how strong Sneeder could be, but Ruri reveals he is actually the most wealthy merchant in the world, and his company owns most of the merchant ships in the sea. So Desus is willing to sacrifice herself to try and stop the war. Setsu wonders how Vlad can be okay with it as one of her generals, but he says they would fight until the last man. However, Levi knows that Desus is doing this because she made a promise to him that she would maintain the peace, and Levi calls her a fool for clinging to such a promise to someone who disappeared, but she decides to help her. Vlad warns them that the road to the castle is crawling with monsters, but Setsu says he will take care of everything by the time he gets there, and they start running straight toward the castle. He is reminded of the time that they attacked the Demon Lord's castle together, but they are soon approached by some wolves. Levi transforms her arm, cutting the wolves down with her water slashes. She wonders what their plan is, and Setsu says they are going to stop the wedding and blow away the Sneeder guy. Levi wonders how he will stop the war without the backing of Sneeder, but Setsu thinks he is the one behind the war. Since the demons think that the humans were the first to attack, and the humans think the opposite, it's clear that someone else is trying to start this war, so Sneeder definitely seems suspicious. Although he might not be the mastermind, Setsu thinks he must know something. They are attacked by more wolves, but Levi shoots jets of water from the ground and takes them all out. Setsu is impressed at her strength even on land, and he wonders if she has gotten stronger. They continue on their way, and Levi thinks about her time with Setsu. Because 5 years ago, she just slept at the bottom of the ocean, not caring about the things happening above, but after she met Setsu, and going around with him, she realized the beauty of the world, and chose to protect it, not only because it was a promise that she made, but because it's her own will. She refuses to lose to Desus, telling Setsu that she likes his squid rings even better than when it's raw, so he promises to make her more whenever she wants. They arrive at the Demon Lord's castle and prepare to face Desus. In a flashback, we see Desus as she fights to protect her people, but in the end, Setsu defeats her, but he offers to make peace and gives her the brooch as a token of his sincerity. After some time, Desus learns about his disappearance, but even though he is gone, she thinks about her promise to him to keep the peace. 5 years later, we see Desus as she patrols the city with Vlad. The city is prospering, thanks to the peace and trade with the human kingdom, but suddenly, Desus's brooch cracks, which she finds concerning, and she gives it to Vlad to have it repaired. Soon after, they receive reports that the humans are attacking them. Desus doesn't want to jump to conclusions, but she gathers her generals, telling them to prepare their army, and sending 2 of them to find out what's going on in the human kingdom. We see some soldiers preparing their supplies, thinking that they were tricked by the humans. They worry about war, because their people have become reliant on trade, but they have faith that Desus will be able to take care of things. After a month, things are getting worse, and they haven't heard anything from the human kingdom. Desus thinks that her people won't be able to last if the war continues, but it's at this moment Vlad tells her that Terrence Sneeder has come to meet her. The demon generals are outraged, as Sneeder offers to use his power and influence to end the war, but in exchange, Desus must agree to marry him, but in reality, she would become his slave, thanks to his necklace with the curse of servitude. Vlad tells her not to consider the deal, but she stops him, saying she'll think about it. Sneeder takes his leave, but wonders how much longer they can hold out for. As Desus considers the offer, she thinks back to her promise with Setsu, thinking this may be the only way to keep it. Vlad enters, telling her not to accept such a ridiculous offer, and telling her that all her men are ready to fight for her to the death, but it's for this very reason that she must accept the deal. She wonders if she is a fool, but Vlad refuses to give up, and leaves to find another way. We see Sneeder as he meets with a shady figure. Everything is going according to their plans, and they will soon have control over the demonic continent. We find out that they were the ones who sent the armored soldiers to start the war, but Sneeder suggests it's time to pull them back, not wanting to escalate things further, but the man refuses. Sneeder thinks that they have achieved their goal of obtaining the demonic kingdom, but the man says that this is the will of his master. On the day of the wedding, the demons aren't happy, but the ceremony begins, and Desus walks down the aisle. The priest tells them to exchange their vows, so Sneeder gives a speech about how he will become a demon lord as their new master, but swears to help end the war. Desus thinks about Setsu, but she accepts her fate, only wishing that she could see him one last time. Sneeder goes to put the necklace on her, but there is suddenly an explosion as Setsu makes his appearance, saying that he is there to rescue her. As Ruri and Vlad make their way to the castle, they see the explosion from the distance, and Vlad is glad they made it in time. Sneeder wonders what he is up to, calling for his guards to protect him, but Levi gets in the way, taking out the guards with her water blasts. Desus is glad to see her, but Levi tells her that she looks better in black. Sneeder's associate appears and attacks using shadow magic. Levi tries to dodge it, but she gets caught and her movements are frozen. The man prepares to finish her off with his shadow magic, but as he attacks, his magic is suddenly shattered, as Setsu appears behind him and blows him away. Setsu prepares to make him pay for making Desus cry, but the man recognizes Setsu, saying that his master will be most interested to hear about his return. He attacks once more, but Setsu catches the shadow and cuts right through it. The man jumps away, launching another attack, but Setsu just shrugs it off, jumping up behind him and kicking him down. Setsu wonders if that's all he's got, but the man decides to prioritize his report to his master. So he destroys the wall, making a smoke screen, and he makes his escape. Setsu tries to look for the man, but Desus rushes over, overjoyed to see him again. Setsu is glad she is okay, but Levi breaks up the reunion, pointing over to Sneeder's men. The bodies disappear, and they learn that the men were made out of cursed energy. As Setsu examines the necklace, he thinks that Toma must really be the one pulling the strings. Desus wonders what they should do next, and Setsu thinks that if they are really up against Toma, then he will need to visit the Beast King Regulus to gain the support of the Beastman. Levi wonders if they are leaving right away, exhausted from fighting all night. Ruri and Vlad arrive, as Vlad worries about all the damage in the castle. Ruri gives the brooch to Setsu, saying that he should be the one to give it back to her, so he helps her put it on, saying that black is more her color. The guards start cleaning up the castle, and Sneeder is arrested. Desus says farewell, wanting to go with Setsu, but she can't just leave because she is the leader of her people. But Setsu tells her that once he stops the war, he will take her wherever she wants to go. Ruri decides to stay behind, saying that Desus is letting her open a shop as thanks for her help. Setsu bids them farewell as he and Levi head off for their next adventure. In the country of the Beast Men, we meet a young girl named Shiro, who walks through the market where the shop owners all give her a bunch of free food. She is hesitant about accepting it all, but the shop owners thank her for her service, and we learn that she is a monster hunter. Shiro takes all the food back to her home, and we meet her younger sister Mineko, who suffers from an illness. Mineko's condition gets worse, and Shiro quickly gets her medicine for her. The medicine is able to help her, but we see it's her last bottle, and that she has been sick for some time, but Shiro promises to find a way to heal her. Meanwhile, Setsu and Levi arrive in the country. Levi is mad because she has been swimming for 3 days straight, so they decide to take the boat instead, which leaves the next day. At the nearby inn, Shiro buys another bottle of medicine from a woman named Kuro, thanking Kuro for obtaining such expensive medicine for her. But Kuro roots for her, seeing how much she cares for her sister. Kuro is also her boss, giving her the next job, but Shiro is shocked to see it's an assassination mission, and Kuro shows her a picture of Setsu, saying she can make enough money to never worry about affording her sister's medicine again. Shiro hesitates, but at that moment, Setsu and Levi enter the inn, looking for a room to spend the night. As Shiro walks past, she gets a look at Setsu before she leaves. Back at her house, she has dinner with her sister, but Mineko doesn't have much of an appetite because of her condition. Shiro realizes she is running out of medicine, so she tells her sister she needs to go out for one more job. We see Setsu and Levi sleeping in the inn, and Shiro shows up to take them out. She thanks Kuro for taking care of her, and even asks to call her big sister, saying they could move somewhere together after the job is done, and Kuro is happy with the suggestion. She then hands her keys to Setsu's room, and Shiro makes her way in. She attacks with her claws, but it turns out to be an illusion, and Setsu appears behind her, kicking her out of the window. Setsu thinks she must be working for Toma, and Shiro activates her partial beast transformation. She attacks with a fireball, but Setsu cuts right through it, reprimanding her for using such an attack in the middle of the town. He slaps her in the face, knocking her out, and she reverts to her original form. Setsu notices traces of cursed magic on her, and when she wakes up, she finds they are back at her house. Mineko thinks Setsu found her unconscious, and they decide not to tell her about their fight. Setsu realizes she attacked him because she is trying to afford medicine for her sister, but he reveals that her condition is not an illness, but she is actually suffering from a curse. He casts a spell on her necklace, which reveals the cursed energy on her body. Shiro begs him to save her, and Setsu assures her he will save her. He gets Mineko to lie down, and he summons his sword Gluttony. The sword opens up, and starts sucking in all the cursed energy. They are suddenly attacked by Kuro, but Shiro jumps in the way to protect Setsu, who can't move since he's in the middle of saving Mineko, so Levi blows Kuro out of the house with her water. Kuro is surprised the god of the sea is helping a human, but she doesn't worry since they are fighting on land. She surrounds Levi with a number of clones, charging at her, but Levi attacks them all at once, taking the illusions out. Kuro realizes she is standing in water, and Levi claims the sea will always be with her, as she delivers a finishing blow. Levi interrogates her on what Toma is after, but Kuro just laughs. Shiro asks why she did all of this, calling her big sis, but Kuro is actually revolted hearing this. Kuro reveals that Toma is working on becoming a god, so he can destroy every other race in the world. Before Levi can capture her, Kuro activates an orb which teleports her away. Setsu joins them, and Mineko was able to be healed. They think about stopping Toma from becoming a god, and they watch the sun rise together. Setsu and Levi catch the boat, and they continue on toward the capital to meet with the Beast King. They see Shiro and Mineko along the side of the river, and they ask to join their journey to defeat Toma, wanting to repay them for their help. Setsu warns them it will be tough, but the girls insist, so he welcomes them aboard and they continue toward the capital. In a flashback, we see Setsu teaching a girl how to fight with the sword. We learn that the girl is the Beastman's princess named Roa, and she doesn't want to accept Setsu as her master, but Setsu is okay with this, knowing that dueling is the Beastman's way of life. Back in the present, the Beastmen officials in the capital city of Regdom discuss how they should respond to the humans and demons. Some officials think they should focus on protecting the people, while the others think they should be more aggressive, so they begin to argue, challenging each other to a duel. At that moment, Roa senses a presence, and she rushes outside, as Setsu arrives at the entrance to Regdom, trying to convince the guards that he is there on important business, but the guards don't believe him, because they don't trust humans, telling them to leave. At that moment, Roa falls from the sky, crashing into the guards, and knocking them out. Roa hugs Setsu, saying she missed him, but she suddenly pulls out her claws to test him, as Setsu restrains her. Roa has now acknowledged Setsu as her future master, and they make their way to King Regulus, who is happy to see Setsu. However, Setsu throws him to the ground, and Regulus tells him that he is still strong, calling him a hero. Regulus wants to have a duel with Setsu, but Setsu declines, saying he has an urgent business to discuss. He tells Regulus that Toma is alive, and that he is behind the war between the humans and demons. Roa wants to join Setsu in his quest, but a beastman speaks up, saying they can't spare any manpower for other nations. He introduces himself as Roga, the army commander and fiancé of Roa. Roga points out that Setsu has been missing for 5 years, so they can't be sure if he is still on their side. But Roa calls him an idiot, saying Setsu can be trusted. Regulus says they both have a point, and as beastmen, they should settle the issue with a duel. Roga challenges Setsu to a duel, and the king adds that the winner will marry Roa. Roga tells Setsu that he will wait for him at the arena tomorrow, so he should prepare for his demise. That evening, Roa goes to Roga, telling him he doesn't stand a chance against Setsu, because he's on another level. Roga already knows this, but he thinks he has a chance, showing her a magic rune he got from a mage, which converts willpower into strength. The next day, we see everyone in the arena, looking forward to the duel between the two warriors. Roa wishes Setsu luck, and this makes Roga jealous, as the magic rune starts shining. Regulus begins the duel, so Roga charges with his claws, but Setsu dodges the attack, and appears behind him. Roga attacks again, but Setsu jumps back, and he launches his attack at Setsu, who easily deflects it with one hand. Setsu provokes Roga, telling him to use his full power, so he transforms into a giant beast, which makes him several times stronger. Roa warns Setsu not to let his guard down, but Setsu grabs Roga by his tail and tosses him to the ground, destroying a part of the arena. Roa publicly declares her love for Setsu, as he asks Regulus to end the match, but Roga gets back up, and he becomes angry as the magic rune shines brightly. He remembers how he used to watch Setsu train Roa, which made him jealous, and this makes him determined to win, unleashing a powerful aura as he gets a power-up. Levi recognizes it as Toma's curse, as Roga fires a beam from his mouth, pushing Setsu back. Levi gives Setsu his sword, while Roga's body starts bleeding because of the curse. He dashes towards Setsu, striking with his arm, which Setsu slices off, but it immediately regenerates, and he uses the arm to attack Setsu, who manages to evade the attack. Roa tries to interfere, but Setsu tells her not to be careless, because the curse could transfer to her. He knows that the curse is controlling Roga, so Setsu wants to save him. He summons Gluttony to devour the curse, but the area becomes covered in fog, as Roga's head vanishes, revealing an image of Toma. Toma says he had to get rid of Roga, because he didn't want Setsu to waste his magic power on him. Roa asks Toma if he tricked Roga, but Toma tells her not to interrupt his conversation with Setsu, pointing his finger at her. Setsu tells him to stop, and this makes Toma laugh because he always protects someone other than him. Toma wants to make Setsu happy by killing everyone, wanting to live like a god with him after the world has been cleaned up. Setsu warns Toma that he will cut him down if he hurts innocent people, as Toma informs him that the invasion of the demon continent has begun, so he questions Setsu's ability to protect everyone as he disappears. After that, Regulus apologizes for approving the duel, but Setsu tells him it's not his fault, saying they should go to the demonic continent to stop Toma. Regulus arranges a ship for Setsu, saying his army will follow him as soon as possible, and Roa joins Setsu in his trip. 10 years earlier, we see Setsu was actually summoned with Toma. The people around them call the summoning a success, and they are welcomed as heroes in their world, but Setsu speaks up, saying he never agreed to be a hero. He starts training with a sword, telling Toma they need to get stronger, because they are now in a world with monsters and demons, but Toma is afraid to go to war. Setsu says they should at least do something, and he suggests working together to survive, since they are in the same boat. Setsu wants Toma to help him stop the war, but Toma thinks there's nothing they can do to stop it, seeing himself as weak. Setsu reminds Toma that they are the chosen heroes, and they still don't know what's possible, as he promises to protect Toma since they are from the same world. Setsu eventually decides to leave, saying he needs to see the world with his own eyes, and Toma decides to stay because he is still scared, but he tells Setsu that he will get stronger to end the war. They promise to meet again once they become real heroes, and Setsu meets up with his party, starting their adventure together, while Toma watches them leave. After some time, Toma has become an accomplished hero, earning him the title of knight. He has gained the respect of the other soldiers, who are all willing to die for him, and they charge through the battlefield together, laying siege to a temple. They break through the gate, as Toma pulls out his sword, slaughtering the demon soldiers in their path. He eventually reaches an area with a strange statue, where he sees some demons begging for their lives as they surrender, but he mercilessly kills them, thinking the war needs to end. As he walks away, he starts to hear a strange voice from the amulet on the statue, telling him it knows about his true desire, and offering to give it to him. The amulet gives off a dark energy, which makes him realize that his true desire is to return to his world with Setsu, and he takes the amulet with him. After that, we see Toma walking through the bodies of his comrades, as the only survivor in his group. A messenger informs him that a truce has been called in the name of peace, and the leaders who will sign the treaty are going to pass through the area. At that moment, he sees a caravan passing by, and he sees Setsu sitting with the leaders, wondering what he's doing there. The leaders gather in the room, signing the peace treaty together, as everyone celebrates the end to the war, hailing Setsu as a hero. That evening, Toma approaches Setsu, calling him amazing for ending the war, but Setsu claims that he didn't do anything special. Setsu's friends call out to him, and he is about to leave, but Toma tells him about his wish to return to the original world with Setsu, saying he found a way to go back. However, Setsu doesn't want to return, wanting to enjoy life without war in that world. Toma feels devastated, as Setsu continues to walk away, wishing Toma luck in his return to the original world. Toma starts crying, remembering the promises they made to each other, and the amulet starts giving off an ominous aura, as he tells Setsu that he will kill everyone to make him go back to the way he was. He attacks Setsu, who defends himself with his sword, while Toma continues to attack him while laughing like a maniac. Their weapons clash, and they are both pushed back, but Setsu leaps toward Toma, who slashes Setsu's torso, but Setsu endures the blow and hits Toma's shoulders, resulting in an explosion that makes them disappear. Toma is sent back to the temple, telling the amulet that none of his wishes came true, and he drops it to the ground, thinking he is about to meet his end, but the amulet glows brightly, as he gets a vision of scientists performing some brutal experiments on humans, who are all suffering in that world, making Toma realize that there are still people like him. Toma decides to save them, causing an earthquake that makes the building collapse. He rescues 4 test subjects, and they all join him in his quest to destroy the world. Back in the present, he tells his companions that they will all become gods as the world reaches its end. The human fleet sails to the demon continent with Setsu's classmates, and the navigator tells the general that they are about to approach the landing area. The general gives an impassioned speech, getting the soldiers fired up for the battle. Thea senses a trace of Toma's magic power in the continent, and they conclude that the real enemy is not the demonic nation, but Toma. However, Glane notices that the soldiers are all riled up, so they probably won't listen to them if they told them about the situation. They start looking for Setsu, as Yuhi says he's probably doing his best to stop the war. Knowing they are headed for a pointless war, they make it their mission to prevent casualties until Setsu arrives. The human soldiers land on the beachhead, charging at the demons while they are being attacked by the demons' magic. Glane comes up with a plan to circle around the enemy, as the human mages fire at the enemy's fortifications, allowing the human soldiers to break through and clash with the demons. Elka leads the students, flanking the enemies as they are focused on the soldiers at the front. Together, they take out some demons, but one of their classmates starts to panic, and she is about to get killed. Yuhi uses a fire spell to save her, and the demons retreat as the humans gain the advantage. The students surround a defenseless demon, as one of them prepares to strike the finishing blow, but Yuhi stops him, saying the demon can no longer fight. They suddenly hear a voice from the sky, telling them they need to end lives, as it causes demon knights to descend upon the retreating demons. Elise appears from the ground, and she immediately attacks the human soldiers, killing them one by one. The demon soldiers think that the tides have turned in their favor, but the demon knights suddenly attack them, blowing them away. Elka freezes the demon knights, while Glane slices them in half. They notice that there are people inside the demon knights, as Mela reveals herself, making them realize that Elise has been hypnotized. Mela states that she turned Elise into a doll, asking them if they also want to become her puppets. Elka charges at her, but Elise blocks her attack, pushing her back. Mela spills her blood on the ground, and they realize that her blood has magic power as she introduces herself as a monster master. Her blood rises from the ground, taking the form of 4 different monsters, and they immediately attack the group. The snake monster approaches Elka as she fights Elise, so she jumps back, summoning icicles to pierce the snake's head, while Glane uses his sword skill to defeat the gorilla monster. The demon knights try to attack Glane, but he blocks the attack, as Thea uses a powerful spell to kill the demon knights and the dragon monster. Yuhi defeats the last monster, leaving them with Elise and Mela. Mela becomes upset, ordering Elise to kill them as Glane clashes swords with her, defeating her in one hit. Elka dashes toward Mela, disarming her and piercing through her magic organ. Elka tells her it's the price she pays for toying with people's lives, as she leaves her bleeding by the river. But Mela gets back up, revealing that her body has been modified during the experiments, so she has an extra magic organ. She breaks her limit, summoning a 3-headed chimera, and she jumps on top of it, using a spell to merge her body with the monster, fueling it with her life force. The chimera tries to stop them, but they all jump away. The chimera's heads start glowing, and magic beams come out of its mouths, while Thea and Yuhi combine their powers to create a barrier, blocking the attack. The chimera prepares to fire another magic beam, but Thea and Yuhi are now exhausted. At that moment, Elka sees a butterfly, and it makes its way to Mela. Elise suddenly appears behind Mela, stabbing her from behind, but Elise suddenly starts crying as she recalls how they used to treat each other as sisters. Mela and the chimera turn into stone, and they heal Elise, allowing her to survive. However, they suddenly hear a deep voice as a dark hand appears from the ground, blowing away the soldiers. A man shows himself to the group, and they all see him as a threat, but everyone is already exhausted at this point. Yui thinks about taking him on, unleashing her aura, but Setsu suddenly descends from the sky, joining them on the battlefield. Setsu tells Yui to stand back, saying he'll take care of it, and the man immediately recognizes him as the hero. He removes his cloak, unleashing his aura, while Setsu charges at him. Meanwhile, Kuro takes out some soldiers, but she is suddenly attacked as Shiro and Mineko make their entrance. Shiro thinks Kuro is not a bad person, calling her big sister, but Kuro laughs, throwing her weapons, which they easily deflect. Kuro dashes toward them, striking with her weapon, but they dodge the attacks, and Shiro strikes back, but she misses. Kuro wonders if that's all they can do, calling them useless cats as she attacks Shiro, wounding her face, and she immediately makes her way to Mineko. Shiro hits Kuro with a flying kick, while Mineko follows up and smashes her into the ground. Kuro appears to be defeated, and the sisters let their guard down. But black tentacles suddenly appear from the ground, restricting Mineko. Kuro gets back up, and we see she now has extra arms. She pushes Shiro back, and she breaks her limit, strengthening her extra arms. Kuro launches her arm at Shiro, who dodges the attack, but the arm travels beneath the ground and appears in front of her. Shiro gets hit, pushing her away, as Kuro laughs, saying sisterhood is just a curse, but Shiro still calls Kuro her big sister, claiming it's not a curse. Kuro launches her arms at Shiro, who runs as she dodges the attacks. She jumps toward Mineko, and they combine their powers, causing the tentacles to break as the two fuse their bodies. They call it their secret power, as Kuro calls the sisters useless, but she dashes past Kuro in an instant, saying she doesn't stand a chance against her. Kuro summons more extra arms, sending them to attack, but the sisters spin like a top, blocking her attacks and destroying most of her arms. Kuro falls to the ground, but she refuses to give up, remembering her dead siblings, as she lunges at them. Kuro gets taken out in one hit, and the sisters return to their original bodies, as Kuro lies motionless on the ground. Meanwhile, a man faces a group of demon soldiers alone, and they hit him with their swords, but it has no effect on him. He pushes the soldiers back, and he removes his cloak, as he starts beating the soldiers up. He introduces himself as Virdas, inviting the soldiers to attack him. At that moment, Roa jumps toward him, punching his face, sending him flying. But she wonders why his face is so hard. She tells the soldiers to back off, saying she'll take care of the man, who reveals that his body is made of iron. Virdas mentions Roga to her, which touches her sore spot, so she dashes forward, striking with her leg, but Virdas is unfazed, and Roa's leg starts bleeding. Roa tells him she will crush him for toying with the pride of the beast men, unleashing a powerful aura from her fists, as she tells him that she will keep hitting until he breaks. Virdas opens his hand, releasing dark particles, while he tells her about his ability to control his body freely. Iron pellets appear around her, hitting her multiple times. Roa collapses, making Virdas think she's done for, as he starts walking away, but she gets back on her feet, and she exudes her aura, making Virdas surprised. She runs to Virdas, who launches iron pellets, hitting her eye, but she endures the blow, landing a solid punch on his face. Virdas remembers how the Beast King's bloodline has the ability to burn their life force as a last resort to take their enemies down, so he hardens his body, wanting to crush her pride. Roa strikes him with her fists, and his armor starts to break. So he impales Roa with iron spikes, but she fights on, destroying the spikes, and driving her fist through his torso. Roa states that a beastman's pride is tougher than anything, but she collapses as she runs out of stamina. Virdas calls her a fool, but he wants her foolish pride to live on, so he heals her, allowing her to regain consciousness as he falls to the ground. Roa is surprised that someone like him is working for Toma, and he reveals he is only working for him because he found Toma cute. Meanwhile, Setsu exchanges blows with his opponent, who uses his shadow ability to immobilize him. The man is about to finish him off, but Setsu blocks the attack. Setsu pushes him back, claiming he doesn't stand a chance against him, but the man laughs, saying he will wager his life in the battle. He breaks his limit, covering himself in shadow armor, and they continue their fight. Setsu jumps toward him, hitting his shoulders, but it does no damage to him as he reveals that his shadow armor absorbs all energy. He punches Setsu away, but he gets back up, exuding his energy as he uses a sword skill, destroying all of his enemy's equipment. The man refuses to give up, charging with his broken sword, as Setsu calls him an idiot, dealing the finishing blow. Toma realizes that all of his companions have been defeated, but he knows that they are headed for the finale, wanting to close the curtain on this world. Levi rushes to check on Desus, who notes that Toma's companions have all been defeated, so they should have the upper hand in the battle. But Toma suddenly arrives, saying that things will end the same way no matter what. We see there is a struggle, but both the girls are defeated. Setsu rushes to find his friends, and Toma gets jealous he came for them. Setsu thinks there is no point trying to talk to him, but Toma claims when he ends the world, they'll be the only ones left, and they'll have plenty of time to talk. Setsu charges at him, and the two clash their blades. Toma gets pushed back, but he transforms his sword and throws it at Setsu, but Setsu bats it away, and it destroys the roof, even causing a crack in the sky. Levi can't believe how strong they are, but Setsu asks Toma if he has finished warming up. Toma attacks with his aura, and Setsu defends himself, but Toma gets behind him, slashing at him with his sword. Toma wonders if he has lost his touch, but Setsu tells him not to get cocky. Setsu manages to disarm him, but he drops his sword, which surprises Toma, and he starts beating Toma with his fists instead. Toma manages to push him back, saying he let his guard down, but he decides they should step things up, as he changes the form of his sword into a cannon. He fires the cannon, and it ends up creating a hole in the mountain. Setsu is shocked at its power, thinking he needs to stop Toma before he fires it again. He rushes at Toma, landing a kick on him, but the two start fighting in the sky. Toma can't land a hit, so he transforms his cannon into a Gatling gun. He opens fire on Setsu, but Setsu summons Gluttony, and he devours the attack. Setsu gains power from absorbing the attack, and he releases the energy back at Toma. Setsu's other friends arrive, and he is glad they are all safe, but Toma thinks about how Setsu was always with other people, and how he was always left alone. He unleashes a tremendous amount of power, and Setsu realizes there is something strange about his power. Toma sacrifices his own life force to break his limits, transforming his weapon to yet another form. Toma starts blasting everything with his weapon, and Setsu can only dodge. Toma decides to target his friends, firing his cannons at them, and Setsu tries to absorb the attack with his sword. But it's not enough, and the energy gets through, but his friends manage to survive by forming a shield together. Setsu fights back, attacking with rapid slashes, and it's enough to destroy Toma's weapon. He charges at Toma, delivering a finishing blow, but as Toma falls, he thinks about his time with Setsu, and he refuses to lose. He gets back up once again, transforming his weapon into a giant cannon, and he fires it at Setsu. Setsu tries to shield himself, but it's not enough, and he gets blown away. He smashes into the ground, and Toma thinks he was finally able to beat Setsu. He starts laughing like a maniac, but Setsu claims he will never win, as he traps Toma with dimensional magic. Toma can't control his weapon, and Setsu activates his final skill, raising the ground around Toma. Toma panics, not wanting to die, and he reminds Setsu how he promised he would protect him. He says that all he ever wanted was to stay by his side, but he ends up being sealed in darkness. However, we see his necklace is broken, and he regains consciousness. He wonders why he is still alive, and Setsu says he was just trying to get through to him, using his sword to only eat the curse that was controlling him, because he remembered his promise to protect him. Toma thinks he has done too many unforgivable things, but Setsu says he now has time to atone for everything. We see Toma locked up, and he wonders what his punishment will be. Setsu tells him he will use all of his magic power to send all of his classmates back to their own world. Toma thinks he is getting off easy, but Desus says that once he uses all his power, he will just be a regular human, so he won't be able to cause any more trouble, and Setsu suggests he should also go to the other world to have a fresh start. We see Toma performing the spell, and all the students are sent back to their world. Setsu wonders why Toma decided not to go with them, but Toma says he wants to atone for the things he did in this world. The two head their separate ways, and Setsu prepares to go on a new adventure. Elka wants to go with him, but Thea says they have too much work after the war. We see that Yuhi also stayed behind, and she is determined to stick with Setsu wherever he goes. So the two head off to explore the world, and they are excited to see what lies ahead. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.